and welcome to the Better Banking Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Foster, and behind the scenes, as always, is Producer Rune. Do I dare ask, how's it going today, Producer Rune?
Oh, hey, I see you waving there. We've recently installed some new soundproofing here in the control booth, so I can't hear you, and you probably can't hear me, but it'll be fine. How are you?
Anyway, the Better Banking Podcast is brought to you by Gain Federal Credit Union to fulfill our promise to share our financial knowledge for your financial gain. Now, I'm not the expert, but I know the experts, and we bring you the experts to help you manage your money better with useful information and resources. We also share our insights on how credit unions work and how they differ from banks. So let's get started. Visiting the podcast today is Gain's Director of IT. His name is Jay Modic. That's letter J, Modic. Welcome, Jay, to the podcast.
Thank you.
Jay, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do here at the credit union.
Well, let's see. I am the IT director for Gain Federal Credit Union. I'm also the information security officer. I've been here almost 3 years. Actually, I started a week before we went into the pandemic mode.
Tell us a little bit about what you do here at the credit union.
What I do specifically is I am the director of IT, and I am responsible for including and maintaining systems that are working at optimum level with reliability and, of course, our security.
And these systems, is this data? Is this computers? What type of systems is it?
It's overarching. So in the case of this, as the director, I am in charge of the servers, our cloud solutions, and of course our workstations.
You're in charge of the security of the information that's held digitally here at the credit union.
Yes, correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got here? Maybe your security work outside of credit unions or financial institutions.
So this is my second credit union I've worked at. I worked at a previous credit union as their information security officer. But prior to that, I worked for about 10 years for a defense contractor, Northrop Grumman, which is a worldwide defense contractor. I was the information system security manager there.
Wow. Any interesting stories you can share with us about that?
I tell you, but then I have to kill you.
Oh.
Sorry.
Could you tell my neighbor? I'm just kidding. Howard, I hope you're not listening. Anyway, give us an idea of your day-to-day routine here at the credit union. Keeping watch over our members' data.
Well, I do ensure that we have the optimum operational ability and reliability of our systems. I manage a team of programmers and a support person and an administrator. Basically, we just want to keep everything running smoothly and without any hiccups or flaws.
We have a lot of information about our members. It's all confidential, it's all private, and we have to keep a tight lid on it. Can you go into detail about the steps you take to protect our membership and their data?
There's many layers of that. It's the best way I can describe it, the layers of security. One is, of course, what kind of tools we use. We tend to prefer the best of breed tools, which includes firewall, data loss prevention, of course, antivirus. We're using a new gen of antivirus that's more not just looking for things that are attached to it, but actually so that you can see what's coming in. Then, of course, there's a security side, which is kind of the paperwork side, which is like a due diligence. We verify that our vendors we use are practicing security as well. And then, of course, there is training and education within the organization for staff members.
Is there something you might want to tell the member to do to reinforce that protection or to add an additional layer?
Yeah, multi-factor authentication is one of the most important things.
Tell us, what is multi-factor authentication?
Multi-factor authentication is, of course, you log in with a regular username and password, which should be 15 plus.
What?
Characters? Yes.
That's too many.
Yeah. And then, of course, the second thing is you want to have some type of option for either receiving a text PIN or authentication tools, which give you an additional PIN to enter in.
But isn't my password enough?
No, not really. As you can see with a lot of hacking that has gone on in different websites and different companies, even financial institutions, that data is gathered and saved, and then of course it's used to exploit in the future. What social engineering does is they take this information let's just use me, for example. Okay, I used to work at another financial institution. Can they say, oh, now I'm changed my LinkedIn profile to say now I work at this new institution? Well, I'm wondering if he's using the same passwords that he did at the old place, and they'll try some of the ones that they have in their bank of lists that they have acquired. Some of them sell them for profit and everything else to see that. Usually your best bet is, and I do recommend this, keep your professional and personal passwords completely opposite of each other. Don't share them across.
So you don't recommend having one password that you use across other banks, credit unions, Amazon, online retailers, that type of thing?
Right. I don't recommend that. You really want to keep those separate. Personally, I practice a tiered level for myself on how my passwords. So my financial passwords are much longer than that. They're actually 20 plus. By design, most computers can't get to right now a 20 plus character password. Of course, when quantum computing, which we're less than a decade from, that's just gonna destroy everything out of the water. And
can you give us an example of one of your 20 plus character passwords?
No.
Good answer.
Passphrases are really good. Full sentences are really good. Of course, changing a common character to a number. So if, for example, like people use the 1 in the password, you could just make it the number 1. You could change something to an @ symbol. But long phrases are always better. It's harder for even the machine that's trying to break it to figure it out. And most of them all rely on us to do short passwords because they're convenient.
So my name and the current year is probably not a good password.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's and not your dog either, so that's not a good one.
Do you ever wonder how Gain Federal Credit Union protects your money, data, and identity? Well, you can learn more at gainfcu.com/security-center. That's a page that will keep up to date with all of the tactics, tools, and tech that we use to fight fraudsters and keep you and your money safe. That's gainfcu.com/security-center.
What's like one of the craziest schemes you've heard of or dealt with regards to cybersecurity?
I'm probably not the craziest, but the most aggressive I've ever seen now is texting. Your account may be breached. Maybe it's Amazon, maybe it's your bank account, and they send you a link within the text that says, please click this, otherwise to unfreeze your account. I think the new one I got this week was Netflix. My Netflix account is locked. They don't have my phone number.
Right.
And they give you a link, and they're hoping that you freak out over this, click the link, and then now you start providing credential information. You don't want to do that. So usually with anything like that, you usually want to go and, so did my Netflix get really breached? Okay, why don't I go to my Netflix account, log in, and see if everything's okay? Most of that stuff is what it is phishing. They're just hoping that you'll take the bite and go for it really quickly without thinking about it first.
So you're recommending don't respond to those unexpected text messages from a utility or a retailer that you might do business with. Instead, go online, go to your account with your secure password and username, and to see if that, in fact, account has some trouble.
Yes, I definitely recommend that. And if it looks too good, or if you've gotten notification from your actual institution that it looks like somebody's attempted, that's when I would go in and try to do a change of password itself and then monitor your accounts. You want to make sure that nobody's gotten through.
And if a person does happen to click on that link or tap on that link on their mobile device, what could happen?
Well, when you tap on the link, there is a confirmation that this is a legit contact number. Sometimes they can auto script and run something in the background that you don't know about. And so now you've installed something onto your phone or your computer. They're watching your keystroke logging. They're watching how you do things. Some of them can even turn on the computer camera without you knowing, and they could see what you're doing face to face. There's a lot of risk with just clicking the link.
Rather frightening. Jay, if you could talk a little bit about the training that occurs for other staffers. Tell us how you train the staff members outside of the IT department as well.
It's security awareness. Rolling back into phishing, We are technically the weakest link of security ourselves. Unfortunately, the human factor over the products that we use to protect. So,
give us an example of that.
An email that looks legitimate from somebody outside of the organization that has maybe a link in it or an attachment file, and it says, "Hey, I need you to look at this or review this." And what they're hoping is not for us to scrutinize the email and look at it, is just to click the link or click the attachment, open it up, hopefully, and start whatever it is that may be running in the background. That's the biggest fear. Obviously, if you click the link and you now go, "Oh yeah, I'm familiar with this website," and they're hoping you'll enter in your username and password that you use, now they've collected that data information.
And so your department provides that type of awareness training to the staff. I know this only because I've taken the classes as well. Jay, can you talk to us a little bit about security measures that might not necessarily involve a computer or a mobile device?
That's a good question. One of the things I would say is it's more of the physical security, which is the situational awareness. We have members who come in and vendors who come into the office. You have to be aware of who they are and verify why they're here. It's the entire institution's responsibility to pay attention to this, ask the questions, challenge them. If you see them wandering around and they're not who they are, you should ask.
Our staff is always aware and on the lookout. And I know local utility companies will often put out posts on either social media or on their website, alerting their customers to be aware of fraudulent utility workers knocking on your door, posing as a utility worker, saying they have to come into the backyard to take a look at a power pole.
I'm the type of guy that doesn't I don't trust anybody. So I follow this. Who are you? Why are you here? And I don't know who you are. And I'm very suspicious of everything. And that's my years of working for defense.
Understood. Okay, so we've talked about training. We've talked about stuff that the member can do to protect their information, in addition to the stuff that we do to protect their information. My question is, we are based here in the Los Angeles area. What happens if an earthquake hits and our building's demolished? Does all that data disappear?
What happens if something happens in
Right.
Burbank? Yeah.
Right.
There is contingencies in place to protect the data. We back up everything offsite, and by a security standard, you have to keep it geographically far away enough that it would not affect our data being compromised from something like a disaster. We are currently backing up all our data to an offsite location, which I can't disclose. Geographically, it's out of state.
So the system backs up all our data. Does this happen like every week, every month? How does that work?
Without going too much deep into it, it's incrementally, so on the fly. And then we do larger backups within periods of time.
So Jay, from your experience with financial institutions, how are credit unions different from banks?
Actually, that's an actually interesting question. I got my home loan for this through Gain, and this was my second time I've ever gotten a home loan in my life. And overall, this was a really good experience because it was the personal touch that I got from the handling of it, keeping me up to date on how things were going and how it worked, because unfortunately, with the house, it took a little longer and there was a lot of delays. So I really have to say it was the personal handling of my account that I really liked about it, and that I have absolutely no regrets about getting my loan from here.
Well, Jay, I just want to thank you for visiting the podcast. You shared a lot of great information, stuff that I wasn't all that aware of, and I'm sure some of our listeners aren't aware of. There's a lot going on with cybersecurity, and I bet it changes every day. So we'll be sure and have you back for another episode to give us an update, if that's okay with you.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Excellent. Jay Modic, that's letter J, Modic, our director of IT, and as we like to call him, our data cop. Thank you for joining the podcast.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
And that's all for this episode. Please send your comments and questions to podcast@gainfcu.com. And be sure to subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Once again, thanks to our Director of IT, our data cop, Jay Modic. That's letter J, Modic. And thanks, as always, to Producer Rune, working hard there in the control room. How you doing in there, Producer Rune?
Oh, everything's great, except there's a martial arts podcast that wants to record, and they're looking for a new punching bag. I think we'd better wrap it up.
Well, good luck, Rune. Join us next time because, as you know, there's a lot more to gain.
The views and opinions expressed by hosts and guests of the Better Banking Podcast are not those of Gain Federal Credit Union. Gain Federal Credit Union is insured by the NCUA and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 407810.